Amazon relay load board videos are worthless, and keep in mind this is coming from a guy who makes a lot of Amazon relay load board videos. The load board takes a ton of patience. Let's get after it. Alright, coming to you tonight with the lights of Donovan State Prison, illuminating the night sky behind me. I'm going to do something here that's been on my mind for a while. I'm going to try to thread a needle with these load board videos. It's just something I've been kind of thinking about lately and wanted to address. The reason I say thread a needle, I don't want to make it ever seem like what I'm doing is super special. This is something I think anybody can do. You know, 3 years ago, no trucking experience whatsoever, working as a pharmacist, had a Class C license, didn't know how to do any of this stuff, and just kind of got in here, tried to absorb information like a sponge, and, you know, a year and a half into trucking later, here I am. So I don't want to make it seem like what I'm doing is too hard. I personally think anybody can do this, but at the same time, will make load board videos for people, and, they'll immediately jump in and say like, man, these rates suck, and 100% of the time, or pretty close to it, I agree. I mean, looking at a load board for 60 seconds, getting a little 60-second clip, I think should be a real small indicator as far as if you're considering jumping into trucking, especially with Amazon. To me, a 60-second load board clip is pretty much worthless. So first load I booked today. I booked it, woke up this morning, it was 7:24. I was taking a look at it. They had this one on there that looked good to me tonight. It was a little Sand 5 to Dib 5, 211 total payout, 9 miles. I mean, can't complain about the rate. How much do you expect for a 9-mile trip? But, payout on it was 211. And that kind of gives me an anchor for my night. Now, what I'm able to do then is kind of, watch the load board throughout the day and just try to build around that night. This gives me a time commitment from between like 10 and midnight, but then it's like, is there anything I can squeeze in there before, or is there anything I can squeeze in there after? It kind of gives me an anchor for my night, a reason to say, okay, I'm going to crank the truck up and head out and see what I can make this truck do. But, after I book that, get the kids to school, I'm watching the load board. One thing I'll tell you about the load board, if you're going to do the little local load board game like I do, you've got to get good at having this thing run in the background of your life. If you just sit there and you're like, yep, I'm watching it, refresh, I'm watching it, you're going to go crazy. I did that for probably the first 2 to 3 weeks when I first started hauling freight for Amazon, and it's enough to drive you crazy. Get this thing going somewhere in the background of your life. If I'm up doing any room in my house, I can screen share this to a TV, so if I'm doing chores or something like that, that way I'm not having to go to my phone all the time, I can just look at the TV and see what happens. If I don't get to the phone in time and I miss one, fine, that's fine. I'm not only am I interested in, are they dropping well-paying loads, I'm also probably more interested in how fast those loads are disappearing. How fast are other people getting these? That's a real good indicator for me. So, got it going in the house. I run to the store, knock out this little list from the store. And, the whole time I'm shopping, I just leave it there where you'd put a kid in the cart, just kind of like keeping an eye on it, that type of stuff like that. Long story short, running this thing throughout the day, they don't drop another load on there until like 106. They drop this next load. So you figure from 7:24 until 106, if somebody had asked me to do a load board video in San Diego, it would have looked like total crap. There would have been nothing on there. And I often talk about setups I like to see, or, kind of picking my spots. What I mean by that is, once you get pretty good or proficient at knowing your area, things I like to look out for is like, if they're sending, let's say usually they'll send a round trip from like a Sand 5 to one of their satellite smaller locations. This could be like a Poway, a DSD-8, a Carmel Mountain DSD-1, a Vista DSD-5. Usually they have you take a loaded trailer from a bigger facility, take that to a smaller facility, and then bring it empty back. A setup I love to see is, if I'm watching that throughout the day and I know that's how they normally run that route, if all of a sudden they say, hey, we're going to start just sending one ways, and so they don't want to pay for somebody to come back, that's fine. My question is what happens at those smaller sites when they get full of empty trailers and now they're so full that they can't accept new shipments? How much is Amazon going to pay to move those empties out of there and take them from another location? I see this happen 3 to 4 times a week easily, where, let's say a Poway, Vista, or Carmel Mountain will get backed up, and now they need to get those empty trailers out of there. Empty trailers are cheap mileage for somebody like me. And, how much are they willing to get those out of there? Where do they want to send them to? Are we talking $6, $7, $8, $9 a mile? I mean, these things are absolutely possible almost more than half the time during the week. So what am I working on here tonight? Well, I just finished up the little Sand 5 to Dib 5. I was, looking for that next load. They dropped one on there going from Sand 5 over to National City and back. I think it was like $7 a mile. I mean, these are all kind of like little $200 payouts, but you figure you string together enough of those, and typically I'll string together anywhere between like 3 to 5 of these. You end up walking out of the night, staying local with a pretty decent little night. What I'd love is to have happen last night, or to have happen tonight, what happened last night. Last night I came out and did the same Dib, or Sand 5 to Dib 5. Did it for slightly more payout on that one was $235. The one tonight I did was for $211. And then as I was finishing that one, they sent out spot capacity for a trailer hostler at Sand 3, 12-hour shift. I respond back to it. They call me up. I get it. So you figure, last night I go out and again, that Sand 5 to Dib 5, $200, that was my anchor. And then it's like, well, what else drops? And that kind of brings up another point here about spot capacity. When I made that spot capacity video, I was cautious in it. I said, I think I put in the title, earn up to 30% more. How I came up with that number, I didn't just pull that out of thin air. I kind of looked back at my last, I think I looked at like 6-7 months of the last time I had worked, and I came up with what's the least I've ever earned from spot capacity compared to what I earned from the load board, and it was 30%. And I said, okay, fine. I feel comfortable going forward with that title saying you can earn 30% more. I didn't want to put something on there. Like if you look at like how much I made from spot capacity last week versus what I made on the load board, I think I made close to like 1,200% more doing spot capacity. I didn't pick that title because that feels too clickbaity to me, and I hate clickbait. I will not produce clickbait, but the spot capacity there is huge. And one thing that I can't show in these load board videos in 60 seconds, I have no idea what the spot capacity is in your area. I only get it for Southern California. I wish I got it other places and could provide people insight, but again, that's something else you're not seeing from a 60-second load board clip. Now, if hanging out all day, with this load board running in the background of your life for, 10 to 12 hours a day just to string together 3 to 5 little local loads sounds like hell to you, I would talk you out of trying to do what I am doing. Not that I don't think you can do it. I'm just letting you know that like that's what is involved for me to put these nights together and have these kind of nights like I have. I think a better indicator for these, or a better indicator than these little 60-second load board clips, would be to look at your city globally on like a Google Maps. Once you got a good shot of the whole city, type in Amazon warehouse and see how many come up. If you're looking at a city that has, 15 plus facilities at it, kind of like how San Diego does, I would almost bet that throughout the day, I don't know when, I'm out here at 12:30 at night after watching this thing all day, picking up these 2 loads that I think will be all right, but I guarantee you there's little loads that are being sent from facility to facility throughout the day or night, and it's just a matter of figuring out when those are. Now, my biggest fear in this channel is, what if I jumped into trucking and got into San Diego and that's really all I know is just this little Southern California bubble? And what if it's great here and it's terrible everywhere else? And it's just my lack of experience in trucking. Maybe I just don't know that. I'm not trying to mislead anybody. I want the best for you. I have to acknowledge that that could be a possibility too. And I'm not trying to mislead or misguide anybody. I can only report to you what I see, how I'm doing it, and what the outcome is. I guess I could sum it up like this. And keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who had the load board running today for about 12 hours in the background of their life. If I had been asked to make a load board video for somebody today looking at 53-foot equipment in San Diego, 95% chance that load board either would have showed nothing or really low paying loads. Now you might be sitting there saying like, well, I'm going to wait to jump into trucking with Amazon until I see those, I want to see those loads $6-7 a mile consistently for 2-3 weeks. And that's when I'm going to jump in. I promise you that time will never come. And then, if you're wondering like, well, how am I out here making money tonight? It's because I was paying attention to the other 5%. I had to get through the 95% to make it to the 5% that I wanted. I hope this video serves you well. Appreciate you for watching. Take care.